Welcome back to RandomRodShop, folks. Well, today we're going to get on the motor mounts for this short wide bed 1967 C10 that we've been working on. It's the one we put rack and pinion, and we've done a lot of work to it. There's a playlist if you're not up to date. It'll be at the end. Okay, let me show you where we're at on the motor mount. As you can see, I got a whole pile of motor mounts that I've been working on. So I thought originally that the Silverado motor mounts would work, but man, they weren't happy at all in there. And then I've got some Trailblazer 6-cylinder mounts here. I kind of like those, but man, they are huge. And then here's the original. All right, this is the original chair. And the issue with that is now that basically that hump right there doesn't like the exhaust manifolds. So that's what kind of necessitated us trying to figure out what we're going to do. These motor mounts, they bolt to the engine. They look like clamshells for the C10 pickups. On the pickups, these bolt down to the cross member. On the LS, they bolt to the engine. Now, the reason I didn't do this video last week is because I was waiting on new motor mounts. These I have modified quite a bit because these motor mounts are what I'm going to use to set that LS in that Mustang. So let me take you over and show you what we got. Let me get a light here. So spent a fair bit of time making a paper pattern here. So there's the clamshell, and what I'm going to do, this is the main structure of the motor mount. How about that? Then I've just got the two uprights that go through the stock hole location on that motor mount, and these bolt in. They don't bolt into the stock V8 motor mount holes, but they do bolt into the 6-cylinder motor mount holes, right? The engine, the 350 mounted here, right, the small block, and it bolted in that hole right there. So, and the engine was quite a bit farther forward, but I've shoved the engine back. We talked about that in the video. I've got it propped up about 1 inch right there, and I can still see the valve cover. Right, it's close, but I can still see the valve cover off of the firewall. So spent some time doing that. Let me put the camera back up and let me show you where we're at. Here's where I'm at right now. I can tell you, this is one of those occasions where, man, a plasma table would be nice. If there's anybody out there who wants to sponsor a plasma table, I'm game. So basically, I put the paper pattern on here, marked it out, combination of a bandsaw and a cutoff wheel and a grinder. I think we've got it where it's ready. This is the raw material for the things. What I need to do now, and you know what? Let me get that paper pattern off. That way I can show you. All right, so here's our paper pattern. And the way it fits up in there, you can see the top's got to be bent and the bottom's got to be bent. Now, I did my best to measure these angles with it on there. That's either 68 or that's 112. We need to bend this plate, the top half, to that. And on the bottom half, that is 130 or 50. So the top's got to go down and the bottom's got to go up. And hopefully I remember that they're mirror images. But we'll see. So I don't think I've said yet, but this is 7 gauges, 3/16 inch plate. I really don't have a good way to bend this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure as good as I can where that bend's at. I'm going to take the cutoff wheel and I'm going to put a cut across there we'll stick it in the vise and we'll bend it down. We'll bend it to what I measured, and we'll do the same thing over here. My thought is, if I cut, most of the way through on top and bottom, once I get it in there, I can tweak it, and then we'll get the MIG in there, and we'll tack this thing so that it doesn't move. Then I've got a 7/16 bolt, which is what goes through those motor. I'm sure it's metric, but 7/16 is pretty close. We'll get these put up on there, or we'll get these stuck on there on the motor mounts. And basically where they're going to set is where they're going to set. And I'll get them tacked in. Then we'll take it all back apart and get it over here on the bench. And I'll bolt the motor mount back in it and try to get it all welded up. And when we're done, hopefully I can just slide this mount in there, or slide this bracket in there, and the motor mount will fit. Famous last words. But that's what we're going to try. Okay, so let me see what I can do about marking this out. Maybe I can remember which way these things get bent. Because on this one, with it going down, I want to cut the top. And with this one coming up, I want to cut the other side. Got the wrong side. forgot to take into account the thickness of the plate, so I'm 2 thicknesses too tall. Okay, well, let me cut that off, and I'll get right back to you. All right, let's try it again. All right, well, that wasn't catastrophic. Let's see if our ears fit. I either made that just a touch too long, or this cut here is causing me some problems. Well, it appears I've got I've got basically 3/16 too tall. And you saw the motor move just a little bit when I put that on. So let me trim 3/16 off this one. And I think I'm gonna get about, let's see here. I think I'm gonna take about half 3/16, so 3/32 off of this one. Let me get right back to you. All right, so I took some slivers off of both the legs, and I did it on both sides because I really want these two things to be symmetrical. So I think that one is ready to tack up. Let's go look at the other side. So this one looks pretty good too. Still got to bolt everything down, so I don't know if you can see that down there. Still got to tighten up that bolt down there and get it all tightened up. But the difficulty on this side is, remember when I made the bracket to hold the heim joint for this steering, I'd like that motor mount to set underneath that plate right there. So I think what I need to do is cut this bracket, do the same thing I did on the other side, cut that loose so it can set down on the frame, and then basically I'll put this on top of that and then weld the piece I put up on top to this. That way I can get this off. I really don't want to take the motor mount loose if I have to get into the steering. So I'm gonna slice it right there. We'll get the motor mount together, and then we'll come back and we will rework this bracket right here. So let me get this thing apart. All right, I'm gonna cut this leg off, and I'm gonna cut the heim joint bracket off, and we're gonna come over here and see if we can put this thing all back together. Oh, I forgot to show you. I need to take about 1/8 of an inch off the bottom of this plate so that it sets up there and lines up with the holes where it's supposed to be. So I did that the other side too. Let me go cut this off. All right, well, we got that plate setting down on the frame. I've got that one down there. I've got that one down there tightened up. So I think we're ready. I think we're ready to put the legs on and see if this thing's going to work. All right. Well, I thought I'd actually film some on welding these legs on, but apparently I didn't. Anyway, I got the legs welded on, and these things are finished. So that's what they turned out like. I put a brace in the middle down there, just to keep it from wanting to wobble this way and that. I don't think it would have, but I put a brace down there anyway. So let's get these things bolted on there. And remember, we gotta modify our heim joint bracket for the rack and pinion. Let me get these bolted on. All right, I got the engine hanging from the hoist. Let me move this thing around, and that way I can put this all in as one unit. All right, let me get these bolted in, and we'll get back to you. All right, let's see what we ended up with for clearance. All right, so my 1 inch won't quite go in there. There's 3/4, so it's somewhere between 1 inch and 3/4 of an inch. And that is hard to see. It looks like that Silverado pan is just a touch too long. That's okay. It's not entirely unexpected. So we'll get a holly, one of the holly pans. No problem. All right, let's get this. Let's get the steering arm hooked back up. So this is where I cut it. Let's get it hooked up and see what it looks like. Well, you know what? I think I can tack that right there. Let me get the welder out. Let me get it tacked on there. Then we'll take it apart, take it on the bench, clean it up, put it back on. All right. Welder's not happy. All right, let's try this again. All right, I'm gonna have to figure out this welder. All right, I think I got it. All right, let me get it out of there and let's have a look at it. Still a little warm. All right, let's go finish welding it up. All right, I'm gonna let that cool just a little bit. I'm gonna grind it and we're gonna stick it on there. Well, I can tell you I am pretty happy. So we have the motor mounts in there. Let's see here. We got the rack and pin. We got the steering shaft hooked back up. We're still clearing the manifold. Lots of clearance down there for the manifolds. See it better on this side. You know, that's a lot of work just to put rack and pinion on. So I think we got a roller at this point. We got the Silverado, the narrowed Silverado rear end in the back, which means we've got the 12-inch disc brakes in the back, 6 slug. We've got the Silverado spindles up front, 12-inch disc, so 6 slug on the front. We got the Dakota rack and pinion steering. We got the steering shaft. We modified the stock Silverado manifolds. We'll still have to do some more work to get an exhaust system hooked up to them, but right now they clear and they're pointing in the right direction. We got the motor mounts, which clear the exhaust manifold, and more importantly, it clears that steering shaft. That was ultimately what the problem was the whole time, is the factory motor mounts wouldn't clear that steering shaft. So today's video, I started with 3/16 inch plates, 7 gauge, and we just went to bending and grinding and welding. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. The motor mounts are 98 to 2002 Camaro Firebird. They look a lot like the motor mounts that go on a C10 pickup, a square body, except in the Camaro they mount on the engine, and in the C10 they mount on a cross member. But they work pretty well here. So now that this is what I would consider a roller, I'm going to put the front end on it and roll it outside. Then we're going to bring that 57 up here and finish making it a roller. You know, we put the trailing arm suspension on the Explorer frame, mounted the 57 Chevy pickup on there, which was our old Tweet truck. But it's still not bolted down. The cab's not bolted down. The trailing arms is all that's hooked up under it. We don't have the rear end actually mounted in the thing. You got to clean off the 8.8 that's under it. So that's the goal anyway. We got the 63 up and running, or we got the 63. It's a roller. It's got the rear end in it. It's got square body rear end. It's got square body front end. I got steering hooked up on it, so, and it's got tires all the way around. So it's a roller. My goal next is to get that 57 a roller. Then we can bring them in and out as we do the body work on them. Well, if you found it interesting, hit the like bell, leave a comment. And until next time, I'm Random at RandomRodShop, and I'm out of here.